Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to NOS Recap 2, our NOS4A2 recap show. We break down the latest episode of AMC's hit series based off of the novel by Joe Hill. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, Griffin Schiller, and I'm joined, as always, by my amazing co-host, Mr. Mike Johnson from Real School. Mike, how is it going?
Good, man. Good. We're getting these tech issues out of the way, and we're rearing to go. So
I don't even did the intro even play that time around?
I think it did.
I genuinely have no idea. My computer, which is a MacBook Pro, is a freaking toaster right now, and I have no idea why it's doing this. But anyways, we're here to talk NOS4A2. So we're going to be talking about NOS4A2 Season 2, Episode number 4, titled The Lake House. So as always, guys, be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions down in the description, the comment section below. I've done a lot of live streams today, so that's why I'm probably fried. But let us know what you thought of the episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were there certain arcs that stuck out to you more than others? Do you like where season 2 is heading? Largely, we want to hear about it and have a conversation down in the comments section below. But I know, Mike, you have a lot to say about this episode, which I didn't expect, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is going to be one of these things where, we're tough but fair. And I say we, it's going to be me. Because, we've had a great opportunities because of this show. And we've been lucky enough to speak with Jamie O'Brien, right, the creator and showrunner. And I think we are fans of the material, and that's why we keep doing what we're doing. But at the same time, we've definitely had some constructive criticism about the first season. Second season thus far, I think we've enjoyed all 3 episodes up until this point. That can end this week. I might have something to say about it. Not that, not me liking the show or saying, they're good people down there, but this episode to me did not hit any note I was looking for or wanting, and some of the same constructive criticisms that I had from last season kind of reared their ugly head once again.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I think for me, this episode was kind of a continuation of last week's, where they're kind of exploring the same things, but like more people are involved. So now it's like Vic and her son Wayne have to kind of make amends there. While Wayne is being his mind is being poisoned by Charlie Manx and all that stuff like that. So that was really interesting. I dug that stuff. Obviously Vic going back to her father, and her father basically getting a second chance to be a better parent, not to her, but to her son, his grandson, I thought was beautiful. And Vic, learning that, if she wants to have a life with Wayne and Lou, that she has to be an involved parent. She can't just come and go as she pleases and all that stuff. So it's like this episode, similar to last week, was kind of like a learning episode for Vic, but then it also had the side arc in there with the secondary arc in there with why am I blanking? Maggie and I think her name's Tabitha, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which I guess it just didn't feel right in there. Kind of took away from the other stuff they were doing. I understood that I liked how they were kind of tackling Maggie giving up some of her domestic life and putting that in jeopardy a little bit in order to help out her friend. But I don't know. They didn't spend enough time with it to make me care about what was happening. If this had been a Maggie-centric episode, that would have been a great way to take all of that stuff, Yeah. So it was a good attempt, and I think it's largely their head was in the right place. I just don't think it was executed properly, nor should it have been in this particular episode.
It's funny. As soon as you said a Maggie-centric episode, I thought to myself, it'd be the same thing if in Breaking Bad we got a Skyler-centric episode. That would be one of my least favorite episodes, I think, and probably for the same reason. And I say that because, we're tough but fair when it came to Maggie's development last season, or lack thereof. and how we really felt she was just a writer's tool the entire time, just a plot device often, you know. And then once in a while she would get these great episodes and we go, good, there it is, okay, fantastic. But here's the problem, and so here's where the rant might begin.
Let's hear it.
They made the specific choice to jump 8 years into the future, which, you know, Jamie had talked about, and she had said we really wanted to make Wayne, you know, of the vulnerable age where he can be taken by Manx. So there's something interesting to play there where the kid has grown up, to see the damage that Vic has gone through, all this kind of stuff, which is great. And we understand these things. We understand kids grow up. We understand why Charlie Manx would be interested in kidnapping this kid. We totally understand where Vic's damage comes from, because we got to see it in the first season, and it's obviously evolved, and we believe it's evolved over the last 8 years. But the problem with a lot of these, this jump becomes in the characters that we didn't spend enough time with either before in season 1 or in the first 3 episodes. And to me, all of this Maggie and Tabitha stuff, again, seems thrown in. It's just a plot device. The end of episode 3, they have to go see Aunt Maggie. And I was like, I don't buy the whole Aunt Maggie thing, because they even said in one of the first 2 episodes that, you know, Vic didn't really call Maggie all that much. So it's kind of like, I don't buy that bond, or that it's lasted 8 years. I don't understand or necessarily, I don't know, feel the connection between Tabitha and Maggie, because this episode was all about their relationship and how much they love one another. And I go, yeah, but we haven't seen or heard anything about that. We didn't get much of that at the end of season 1. So really it just becomes like, we have to take the writer's word for it, because I'm not feeling that connection. And I just feel like every other character, including Lou, we kind of understand the motivation. So this was an episode that was, as this show tends to do, very character driven. I think the fantastic actors in this show, like Quinto and like Eben, who plays, you know, Chris, Vic's father, we believe anything they throw at us. And this isn't any criticism on the actress who plays Maggie at all. I still, we are how many, 13 episodes into this show, right? 14, I guess, technically, with the 2 seasons, right? And I still don't think she gets enough, because it's just, I don't buy any of it. I'm not connected to it.
Well, and I think, I wonder how much of that is just like, does you're right. She's not really a part of the main story in a lot of the episodes. So it's like, and I don't fault Jakara, because the actress who plays Maggie, because I think when she is given moments, she's doing the best she can with the material. I just don't think that's why I think like this particular storyline, you need Maggie centric episodes. You do, but they have to be character driven and not plot driven. And I agree with you. That is ultimately where we run into some issues here.
Yeah, because if you think about this episode specifically, like you said, plot driven, definitely, because it sets up, we know that Manx is working his way into Wayne's brain, and he's trying to figure out where he is, right, and where he can come and get him. And we see on the other side the good guys. So, you know, the McQueens and Lou are creating bombs to bury out in the wilderness to kind of, you know, create a minefield and protect their house. And so, you know, the confrontation is coming. So it's just setting that up. But the character stuff, once again, comes, like you said, with Chris. It comes with Vic especially, and the relationship between Lou and Vic, and that I buy and that I understand. And luckily that was about a third of the episode. But once again, we get Maggie thrown in there just for the sake of like, oh, I'm going to use my powers. And even that seemed inconsistent, because we were getting to the point where, you know, the first 2 episodes or first 3 episodes, where she used her powers and she would, you know, go in and grab her tablets or pieces. It would get to the point where, you know, she had to go to the hospital. Like, she almost didn't survive, apparently. And here,
so it's like even, the repercussions of that are almost inconsistent. But I guess it was like, I guess the rationale would be, well, okay, she understands now that she just has a seizure and then can get back up. She doesn't need to go to the hospital. I don't know. Yeah,
it's just one of those things. So I went, you know, consequences, I feel, And I've always said this about like really successful things in today's Hollywood. And I've always said this about Marvel, and I've always said this about TV shows, like Game of Thrones even. You know, Game of Thrones did have consequences for a lot of the characters. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it was the payoff of those consequences that really made shows like that fulfilling. And why I feel, you know, at times like Marvel and stuff, when there are no consequences, you love watching it. It's like popcorn movies, that kind of stuff. But you know, you can't really get invested as that, you know, that much. Obviously, people got invested in Iron Man, so I don't want to start an angry nerd war on your channel. But the fact is, you know, we're kind of there with this show where it's like I want to see real consequences already. And you had kind of said right from the beginning of season 2, you know, they're getting into stuff that they weren't able to. They're kind of starting a little faster than they did with the first season. And I'm going, yeah, they slowed it down way too much, I think, in this episode specifically. And from a show that I felt has always suffered at times when it comes to its pacing, this was an episode where I went, oh, you're getting in that bad habit again, where instead of building consistently, we kind of take a step back. It's like, you know, when you're running a marathon, not that I've ever run a marathon in my life, but, you know, and you got to catch your breath. This is a catch your breath episode. And with television, I don't think you need to do that all the time. I'm not saying it has to be go, 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 go. You can take moments, and this show has brilliant moments for most of its characters, but I just felt, God, did the pace slow down significantly from the first 3 episodes for sure.
Yeah. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bored with this episode for sure. Again, because I feel like it's too similar to the one that came before it. It's just kind of, we're just kind of like treading water here, and then they add the Maggie stuff in there, and it's like, okay, well, why didn't you just make the episode centered on that and on their relationship?
Develop that further.
I mean, I understand they need to build up the whole Wayne thing, and like so to the point where like, okay, Manx is going to take him now, but I get the Vic and Wayne stuff are important, but I feel like that's almost better if it was sprinkled in the episode. But the focus was on, you know, Maggie and Tabitha. That's it should have been the reverse of what this episode actually was.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes, you know, I'm sure in a writer's room, you know, you get caught up in what you want to say, and instead of trying to say, well, we can take a moment here and we can take a moment next episode and maybe 3 episodes from now. I don't know. I just always felt like this show never takes the long road except when they shouldn't, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like the development comes, but not necessarily at the most opportune moments, just in terms of the pacing. So yeah, and you're right. I'll bring up something really funny because that's pretty much my whole rant. But I found myself getting so kind of bored with this episode that, did you happen to notice that Chris has a bathtub in the middle of his house and it's not connected to anything? Like it looked like a day bed. Like literally,
I did notice that. Yeah.
In the middle of the major room in the cabin, they've got
there's a bathtub.
Yeah, and I go, what is that? Is that where Wayne's sleeping? Like, why do they have that tub? So that tells you how focused I was on the major story points of this episode. Where I'm like, what's that bathtub doing there, man? Like,
what the heck? Come on, the bathtubs. Yeah.
I want a whole episode on the bathtub now. So
yeah. Well, what did you think of the Manx and Wayne stuff? So like the stuff at the beginning of the episode where he's like getting lured in, and then obviously the moon wink I thought was funny and cheeky. What did you make of that stuff?
I always enjoy that stuff, and I think we talked about this last season. Having not read the book, when I saw that, I went, "Oh, this could be the moment that takes a lot of people out of the show if they've never read it, because they just kind of go, what the hell was that all about?"
Wait, you mean having read the book?
Sorry, me personally? Yes. People who haven't read the book. Sorry. Yeah, misspoke. But yeah, it was one of those things where, it could take people out because they wouldn't necessarily really understand the mythology, right? But this, I like that because it was a throwback to that first season or that one episode.
Yeah, that the whole opening of this episode was like very reminiscent of the opening of the series. And I was like, oh, that's a nice throwback. You know, I don't know. Again, similar to you, I like those moments, and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, anytime you can throw in that supernatural, that's why I got into this show in the first place. And yeah, it's that fun. It is cheeky, like you said, right? Tongue in cheek sometimes. And I think that mix of horror and, you know, we're going to get more and more of those elements. And we got some good action in this as well with Manx and Bing. You know,
when Tabitha goes down to confront them.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, Manx got shot in the head and then woke up like, you know, 30 seconds later. You know, you got to love that kind of stuff where he just kind of picks the bullet out of the back of his head. Yeah, so that was good. And yeah, I did think the Wayne stuff, it pays off because the kid who plays Wayne is really good, I find. And he plays vulnerability really well, not just in terms of like, yeah, he can be taken, but also, you know, the relationship between he and Vic, I mean, he and his mother, right, is really important. So yeah, I think anything like that is great. So yeah, it just goes back to, well, then maybe we could have saved some of this other stuff for another episode, you know, and really develop that stuff more, because I loved when they all went swimming together, and I loved. Yeah,
that was good. Yeah.
Vic is telling Lou, like, I want to get it together, and he's like, okay, and you can tell that he's doing the same thing that her mom would have done, where it's like, yeah, okay, I believe you, but I kind of don't believe you. Like, we've been down this before. So yeah, some great moments, and then Maggie stuff thrown in, and this is why I don't criticize Maggie or Jakara, the character or the actress. It's just, it gets to the point where they just kind of throw her in, and I want an episode where I can get invested in that stuff, and then I start to understand more about, you know, she and Tabitha and all that kind of stuff. So
it's like one of those things where it's like they don't use her, and like they've used her even less in this episode than last season, or in this season than last season. But they don't use her, but she's like a big part of the story. But then, like, she's important to this stuff. But then, and then they just kind of like shoehorn her character arc and all that, and then it's just like it doesn't really fit, and we still we haven't spent enough time with her to like care about what's going on. It's like Tabitha going on like her little like sleuthing mission. I don't care about that. Like, I understand she's doing that to try and help them, but also it's just like, well, why? Like, I mean, and I don't know.
To be brutally honest, if she had died in that episode, what difference would it have made? It would have made Maggie more upset, you know, but ultimately you just kind of go, So, well, and it could have like done, it could have, you know, created more stakes. But again, you're right. She's such a, she's not a very well developed character at this moment. Right.
To the point where, yeah, I agree. Like, had that happened, it would have been like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I mean sucks, because I think there's so much potential there for both of them and that relationship. And it's like, you know, exploring Maggie's, you know, need to, well, not need, but like her clinging onto the tiles because she's only using them for people that she cares about. But it still affects her relationship. And like, obviously she's married to or not married, but she's with an FBI officer. And it's like, well, she wants to help out. But, and so I think there's a lot of, and then her going with Vic puts her in danger. And there's a lot of potential there that they barely scratch the surface. And I just kind of go, okay, all right. Yeah. Well, I don't know why. It's kind of puzzling.
Yeah. Well said.
But all right, Mike, final thoughts on this episode before we start to close out.
I hope the season gets better. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing is that, you know, we've invested a lot of time in this show, right?
We have.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, we haven't been disappointed, right? And it's not just like, oh, here we go. But it's just that this one episode, I kind of go, okay, let's just make sure 5 kind of picks up a little, because that's the other thing. And we talked about this last season. You're 4 episodes into a 10 episode season. You're 40% finished at this point. So if we're not kind of moving right along by the midpoint, you know, that worries me, right?
Yeah.
And especially because fans love this show, and they got renewed for a second season, but we still don't know what the future is.
Yeah.
In terms of what's going to happen. So this could be it. Knock on wood, it's not. But it's one of those things where I just go, I really hope it pays off in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make every episode count, and I think this one is, again, it's good in some aspects, it's not so great in other aspects, but I want to just, we've had this 2 episode sort of lull here. While it's important, I just kind of want to kind of move past it and everything. But so there you have it, guys. Those are our thoughts on season 2, episode number 4, titled The Lake House. What are your thoughts on the episode? Again, let us know down in the comment section below. Are you looking forward to next week's episode? All that good stuff. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the FilmSpeak channel for more NOS4A2 recaps every week, Sundays, whenever the episode finishes airing, and then also movie reviews, interviews, all of that good stuff. But Mr. Mike Johnson, thank you so much for joining me on this recap. Where can everyone find you?
As always, you can find me on the major YouTube especially, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at Real School with 2 E's, and that's it.
With 2 E's, key there. And then lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's going to do it for this recap of NOS4A2 Season 2, Episode 4, and I will catch you next time. Take care. NOS4A2.